1. The Subletter. Julia listed her spare room online after her roommate moved out. She was cautious, background checks, phone calls, even an in-person interview. Kevin was perfect. Quiet, polite, paid 3 months up front, said he worked night shifts at the hospital. At first, everything was normal. Julia hardly saw him. But she began noticing small things, food going missing, her toothbrush damp before she'd used it. She chalked it up to forgetfulness. Then she woke one morning drenched in sweat, the sheets twisted like she'd been thrashing all night. Her pillow was damp and not with sweat. She found a single long dark hair. Kevin had light hair. Creeped out, she added a lock to her bedroom door. Kevin said nothing, just smiled when they passed in the hallway. After he supposedly moved out, she heard movement from the spare room. She opened the closet. Inside was a sleeping bag, food wrappers, and a notebook. In it were dozens of entries. She locks her door now. She's starting to suspect. I love how she breathes when she sleeps. She called the police. Kevin was never found. Julia hasn't slept with the lights off since. 2. Trail marker. Mike and Sarah were avid hikers. One weekend, they stumbled on a trail they hadn't seen before. Narrow, unmarked, but clearly used. A faded sign read, "Unmarked trail, enter at your own risk." Curiosity won. They followed it. The trees were denser, air heavier. They noticed odd stacks of rocks, 3 stones in a row at increasingly regular intervals. Hiker trail markers? Maybe. But they started to appear in stranger places, on boulders, the middle of the path, balanced precariously in tree roots. After an hour, Sarah felt uneasy. "Let's go back." They turned around. The markers were still there, but now facing the other direction, as if they were being guided in. No signal. Their compass spun uselessly. Then they found a stack with Sarah's name scratched on one stone. The next had the day's date. The third read, "You were warned." Panicked, they tried to retrace their steps, but the forest kept looping. It was sunset when they finally saw the parking lot again, only it wasn't where they entered, just the last stone stack. They never hiked off trail again. 3. Maintenance closet. Jason worked night shifts as a janitor in a downtown high-rise. He liked the peace, the emptiness, but one week weird things started happening. His radio began changing stations mid-song. A voice, soft, barely above the static, kept saying, "Don't go in the closet." He laughed it off, probably interference. Curiosity got to him. He checked the supply closet at the end of the 7th floor hall, dusty, unused, but there was an odor like sweat and bleach. Next night his cart was rearranged. His mop was wet before he used it. No one else was scheduled. He set up his phone to record. When he reviewed the footage, it showed the closet door opening on its own at 3:17 a.m. No one came out. Later, the door was shut again when Jason passed. He quit the next day. A month later, the building was shut down. A body was found inside the walls. The coroner said he'd been dead for weeks, right behind the closet. 4. The shortcut. Elle used the alley behind her apartment as a shortcut. It shaved off 5 minutes, and she never had issues, until the man appeared. He stood at the far end, unmoving. She passed him quickly. He didn't speak, just stared. The next night, same spot. He smiled as she approached, a too-wide grin, and stepped aside without saying a word. She stopped using the alley, but then she saw him on the main street just watching. One morning her door was cracked open. She always locked it. Nothing was missing. But her bathroom mirror, dusty for weeks, was clean. A single wet footprint stained the tile. She installed cameras. At 3:28 a.m., the man appeared in the footage, not breaking in, inside already, standing in the hallway. Then the feed glitched. When it resumed, he was gone. The door was locked. 5. The Babysitter. Maya babysat for the Bensons every Saturday night. Easy gig. 2 quiet kids asleep by 8 p.m. One night she heard whispering through the baby monitor. She checked. The kids were asleep. Back downstairs, the monitor clicked on again. A low voice whispered, "She's alone now." She locked every door and kept the kitchen knife nearby. When the Bensons came home, she told them everything. They laughed, said baby monitors picked up weird signals all the time. Months later, she ran into Mrs. Benson at the store. "How are the kids?" Maya asked. Mrs. Benson blinked. "We don't have kids." Maya thought she was joking, but her phone calls, her texts, all now said number disconnected. To this day, she doesn't know whose house she was in or who was watching. 6. The Hostage. Danny was a delivery driver, usually working nights. One winter evening, he dropped off food to a suburban address. A teenage girl opened the door, whispered, "Please help me," and tried to hand him a note. A man appeared behind her. "She's joking," he smiled. "Teenagers." Danny hesitated. He left, but the girl's eyes stayed with him all night. He called the police. They said they'd check it out. The next day he drove by. The house was empty. For sale sign in front. Windows dusty, mailbox overflowing. Neighbors claimed it had been vacant for months. He replayed the dashcam footage. The timestamp was right. The video clearly showed the girl, the man, even the exchange. But when he paused on the girl's face, her mouth was open, mid-scream, silent but unmistakable. He went to the police again. They dismissed him. That night, he got a text from an unknown number. "Thank you, he's gone now." It was sent from a phone listed as inactive since 2018. 7. The Roommate Agreement. Rachel found her new roommate Erica through a friend. Rent was cheap, the building secure, and Erica seemed chill. Just one rule: never enter her room without knocking. Fair enough, but Erica was rarely home. Sometimes gone for days. Strange smells leaked from under the door, chemical, sharp. Rachel knocked once to ask about it, but Erica didn't answer. Just texted back, "Don't open the door, it's for your own good." One night a leak started in the hallway. Rachel followed the water to Erica's room. It was dark red, sticky. She panicked and called the landlord. When he arrived, they opened the door together. No one was inside, just rows of labeled jars on shelves. Each contained pieces of skin, tattoos, freckles, even a mole. A mannequin sat on the bed wearing what looked like a full-body suit made of stitched-together human skin. The landlord screamed. Rachel threw up. The next morning, Erica's number was disconnected. Her belongings were gone, and the mannequin was gone too. 8. Double booked. Mark rented a secluded cabin for a quiet weekend getaway. No service, just peace. The key was under the mat, just like the host said. That night he heard footsteps upstairs, heavy, deliberate, but he was alone. He texted the host when he got service the next morning. They replied, "That cabin shouldn't be occupied. We canceled that listing last year after a break-in." He searched the cabin again, found a backpack in the closet filled with food, clothes, and a Polaroid camera. One photo was on the floor, recent. It showed him asleep in bed. He left immediately, drove for hours. When he checked the Polaroid again later, the picture had changed. He was still sleeping, but someone else was now in frame, closer to the bed. 9. The Collector. Nina sold antiques online. One customer became a regular, always requesting strange, morbid items, old teeth, taxidermy, vintage locks. Then he asked for something personal. "Something of yours," he messaged. "Hair, nail clippings, a worn glove." She blocked him. A week later, she found a package on her doorstep. Inside were items from her apartment, a toothbrush, socks, and a ring she hadn't seen in months. Another package arrived, a photo of her sleeping. Her window cracked open. The police couldn't trace it. She installed cameras. They caught nothing. The final package came weeks later. A scrapbook. Each page held an item, her old Band-Aid, a broken hair tie, a movie stub from a date she barely remembered. The last page read, "Now you're part of my collection." She moved cities, changed her name, but she still gets packages. 10. The Last Fare. Carla drove for a rideshare company. It was past midnight when she picked up a man outside the airport. He was pale, wore outdated clothes, and spoke softly. "Home," he said, giving her an address 30 miles out. The drive was quiet. When they arrived, it was an abandoned house, windows boarded, overgrown lawn. She turned to tell him, but the back seat was empty. She checked her app. The ride never logged, no fare, no name, no record. Shaken, she drove back. Next day, she told a coworker. They blinked. "That address? My uncle died in that house, heart attack. Took a cab home from the airport and collapsed in the driveway. Carla doesn't drive nights anymore." 11. The Birthday Card. Lena always received a birthday card from her grandmother, even after she passed. At first, she thought it was something her parents arranged, a tradition to keep her memory alive. But then she moved across the country, didn't tell anyone her new address, no social media posts. She just wanted to disappear for a while. Her birthday came. A plain white envelope was slid under the door, no stamp, no return address. Inside, a card in her grandmother's handwriting. "You're never alone, sweetheart. Not on your birthday." Chilled, she confronted her parents. They swore they hadn't sent anything in years. They even showed her the box of leftover cards her grandmother never used. Identical design, but the one Lena received wasn't among them. The following year, she stayed in a hotel under a false name. The card came again. 12. The Footsteps. Liam's apartment was too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear things. Every night around 3 a.m., the footsteps started. Heavy, deliberate pacing, but he was the only one there. One night he decided to stay awake and confront the sound. He sat in the dark, waiting. The footsteps came again, louder, closer. Suddenly a loud bang. Something slammed into the door. He froze. He thought he saw a shadow move underneath the doorframe. He opened the door to find nothing, just the silence, and his neighbor's note taped to the door. "Stop pacing. I can't sleep either." 13. The Silent Auction. Claire had always been curious about antiques, and when she saw an ad for a local silent auction, she couldn't resist. It was at an old mansion just outside the city, known for its lavish history and eerie charm. The mansion was grand, but there was an unsettling stillness to it. The guests were mostly older, talking in low voices, but the atmosphere felt heavy. Claire wandered the rooms, inspecting the items, old paintings, antique furniture, and strange trinkets. Then she came across a wooden box, intricately carved, sitting in a corner. The bidding had already begun, but the box seemed different from everything else. It called to her. Without thinking, Claire placed her bid. She won it. Later that night, as she sat at home, she opened the box. Inside was a mirror, old and tarnished. She tried to look into it, but the reflection didn't match her image. Instead, she saw a face, pale, hollow eyes staring back at her. The next morning, Claire couldn't find the box anywhere. It had vanished. A week later, she received a letter. "You bid for it. Now you belong to it." 14. The Unseen Guest. Tom had always hated his uncle's house. It was old, drafty, and seemed to be filled with an unsettling silence. But when his uncle passed away, Tom had to clear out the place. As he moved through the house, packing boxes and sorting through things, he noticed something strange. The house was too still, too empty. It wasn't that he was alone. He could feel someone else there. He checked every room, but there was no one. Then in the attic he found a dusty old mirror leaning against the wall. He could have sworn it wasn't there before. Without thinking, he reached out to touch it. Suddenly he felt a cold hand grasp his wrist. He yanked it away and turned, but there was no one there, just the mirror, reflecting nothing but empty space behind him. Tom went downstairs, heart pounding, and tried to leave. But as he passed the doorway, he caught a glimpse of something in the reflection of the hallway. Someone standing just behind him. Someone who wasn't there when he turned around. 15. The Hollow Tree. Samantha loved nature, and one afternoon, while hiking alone through a dense forest, she came across an ancient oak tree. Its trunk was hollow, and a strange, unexplainable urge compelled her to peer inside. She cautiously approached the tree and leaned in. The inside was dark, almost unnaturally so, as though light couldn't penetrate it. But she couldn't resist. The temptation was too strong. She reached inside. Her fingers brushed against something cold and smooth, like stone. She pulled it out. It was a small black stone, oddly shaped but smooth. The moment her fingers made contact with it, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. It was fleeting but intense. She dropped the stone, stepping back, but the pain lingered. As she turned to leave, she noticed something in the corner of her eye, movement just outside her line of sight. She spun around, but the forest was still. Later that night, she felt the pain again, this time more intense, coming from her chest. She opened her shirt, horrified to find the outline of a handprint burned into her skin. The stone, she realized too late, wasn't just an artifact. It had been waiting for someone to touch it. 16. The Vanishing Guests. Maya hosted a dinner party at her new house. It was a small gathering, just a few friends she'd recently made after moving to the area. The night was full of laughter, food, and wine. But as the evening wore on, something felt off. The guests started leaving earlier than usual, claiming they had early mornings. Maya thought it was strange, but didn't think much of it. The next morning, she checked her phone for photos from the party. But there was nothing. No messages, no pictures. A few hours later, she received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was distorted. "You shouldn't have invited them," the voice said. "They're not who you think they are." When she tried to call her friends back, their numbers were disconnected. She looked up their names online. No records. They didn't exist. 17. The Forgotten Ward. Dr. Harris had always been a dedicated physician. He worked in a small, quiet hospital, and while things often ran smoothly, there was always an air of unease about the older parts of the building. One evening after his shift ended, he received a call from the hospital director. There was a new patient in Ward 13. The ward was abandoned years ago due to strange happenings. Curious, Dr. Harris went to check it out. The door was locked, but a faint light leaked through the cracks. He entered cautiously. Inside, the ward was eerily pristine, as if frozen in time. The patient lay in bed, an elderly woman, her eyes wide open, staring at nothing. She whispered, "They can never leave." Dr. Harris turned to leave, but felt something cold and clammy grip his arm. He looked down. There were no hands, only a pale, skeletal outline of arms clawing at his skin. The door slammed shut and the lights went out. He was never seen again. 18. The Silent Neighbor. Emma lived in an apartment complex on the outskirts of town. Her neighbor, Mr. Grimshaw, had lived next door for years. No one had ever seen him, and the air around his apartment always felt heavy. One evening, after hearing strange scratching noises coming from his unit, Emma decided to check on him. She knocked, but there was no answer. The door was slightly ajar, so she pushed it open. Inside, the apartment was dark and cluttered. Papers and books were scattered everywhere. But what was most unsettling was the large, ornate mirror hanging on the wall. She approached it, feeling drawn to it. When she looked in, she saw Mr. Grimshaw standing behind her in the reflection. But when she turned around, there was no one there. The mirror cracked, and Emma heard a voice whisper, "Don't look again." She left and never returned, but every time she passes the building, she sees his reflection staring at her from the window. 19. The Stranger in the Park. Every morning, Jason walked his dog through the park. It was peaceful, and he enjoyed the quiet routine. But one day he noticed a man sitting on the bench by the fountain. His clothes were tattered, and his face was obscured by a dark hood. The man stared at him as he walked by, but Jason didn't think much of it. The next day the man was there again, and the next. On the fourth day, Jason decided to approach him. He asked if he needed help, but the man simply whispered, "Don't trust anyone, especially the trees." Shaken, Jason returned home. That night he went back to the park to see if the man was there. He was, but this time his face was visible. It was a reflection of Jason's own face, twisted in terror. The man stood up, and Jason felt his dog pull away. Then he heard the trees around him whisper his name. 20. The Endless Call. Sarah had just moved into a new house, one she inherited from a distant relative. It was old but charming. Everything seemed fine until one night she started receiving strange calls. The voice on the other end was familiar, but she couldn't place it. It would always say the same thing, "I know you're here." Every time she answered, the voice would hang up, leaving her with an unsettling feeling. She checked the phone records. The calls came from her own number. Confused, she tried to track down where they were originating. The call logs revealed something terrifying. The calls came from a disconnected line. Late one evening, she received another call. This time she picked up and demanded, "Who is this?" The voice replied, "I'm the one who's been watching you from the attic."